Yep,
Oh, we're live. We're going to keep our masks on today.
Except for me. So it's Gina Kroshak
Jennifer Furr.
and Tamara Ray. So we are all here today and we're going to talk about pendulums. And it is something Cindy uh, had to go home early. And so she's just with us in spirit. And we have two very expert dowsers. Jennifer has been dowsing. Dowsing is the term that is often used for people who work with pendulums and or with rods to of one variety or another. And we are, hi Angie, it's good to see you. And so we are going to talk. We've got a variety of pendulums. We've got uh, different characteristics of the pendulums that we can talk about and working with them. And I think I made a whole list of questions. And so we're going to just sort of go through those and see. And we welcome you to make comments. And I think all of you know that we're in Prismscape Gems and Healing Center in Eastdale Plaza in Iowa City, Iowa. And so we are just going to have a good time. And when I think I started learning about pendulums in 2003 when I got into working with Reiki. And my teacher at that time, Karen Fox, taught me about working with pendulums. And so then, so anyway, so how did you get into using pendulums, Jennifer?
Well, a long time ago, 1992, 93-ish, I stumbled upon a store in downtown Des Moines that's no longer there, called Kazol International. And they became, the owners became, like you, became good friends of mine. And they had we did all sorts of little mini classes. And one person came in and taught us how to do dowsing. And my mom was always interested in it. So, that I've been doing it since then, and I've had multiple teachers along the way.
Okay. How did you learn about dowsing?
Very similar, a class.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching other people do it perked my interest more, and I explored other ways of using it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are, in the state of Iowa, we have a long history of dowsing societies in each of the counties and in the state of Iowa as well. And so people have been, well, one, looking for water, but also using the pendulums or dowsing rods for a variety of reasons. In the energy world, we generally work on clearing energy and or bringing in really wonderful energy. But so tell me what you have beside there.
I have copied one of my teachers. His name is Raymond Grace.
One of my teachers.
Yeah, it's spelled Raymon and Grace. And you can look him up on the internet. He's pretty famous, and I've taken multiple classes from him. And this is his manual. I don't know if you can get his manual online.
Well, I think you can.
Oh, good.
He's got a good website.
Yeah, he does. I haven't looked in a long time because he doesn't travel anymore to teach. Everything he teaches right now is online. And this is a pendulum chart. This is the chart that I use when I'm doing energy work.
Yeah, and he's quite a fascinating person. He's a shaman. He lives in West Virginia, and is quite the character.
He is quite the character.
Yeah, he's been to Iowa at least. We brought him to Iowa in 2008 as Prismscape, and that was before we had the Gems and Healing Center, and I think he came twice.
He's been here, no, actually multiple times, because he was good friends with another one of my dowsing teachers, Barbara Kearns, who's in spirit now.
Mhm.
And the reason why he kept coming back to Iowa, he told us that he loves Iowa because we do our work. We do our spiritual work.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be the spiritual work that he does,
Mhm.
but he can tell by even just flying over the country, over Iowa, that we have high vibrations and that we do have all sorts of love energies going on here. So that's the reason why he kept coming back. So what he espouses is that we are incredibly intelligent beings and we have very powerful minds, and that the mind can direct the energy.
Mhm.
And being able to direct the energy, and that's basically using the it's kind of hard to see, basically using the pendulum. And it doesn't
You need to
matter.
go in closer, I think.
Yeah, this is the one. This is one that you can get at the shop. That I have this one because lapis is one of my favorite stones. So, and you can use any pendulum that you want. This is resin, but it's also a Merkaba that has, I think that's citrine in there.
Mhm.
So you can have citrine. You can have, this is metal, and it's, I think this is also,
It's a chambered one,
it's a chambered one where you can put,
oils
well, you can
or chips.
oils or chips in there to help direct the energy.
Mhm.
And you can, one of the first things that I did, well, not one of the first things, but one of the things that I did with my family is my nephew was gonna, his wife was gonna have a baby, and there hadn't been any Farrar females born into the family since 1956. And they're like, Aunt Jenny, can you douse for me? And I'm like, sure. And they're like, we want to know if it's a girl, if it's a girl. No one believed me. I'm like, it's a girl. They're like, no, no, no. No, no, for our female had been born. No, no, no. I'm like, it's a girl. It's a girl. And when when it was a girl, my mother-in-law, who just was so excited, she just screamed, I'm going to go buy something pink. Because throughout the years, all she had been able to do was buy blue.
Mhm.
So all I did was shortened up my pendulum.
And so this is one of the things that's very fascinating about
See if we
people
can-
who teach pendulums is that many people suggest that you just hold it like this. And so from the very top of it. But several people, I'm not sure, how do you use your pendulum? How do you hold your pendulum?
It depends
Yeah.
on what I'm using it for and which pendulum I'm using.
Okay. Okay.
For me, I like to hold it. It's one of the reasons why when I first started dowsing, I couldn't get it to move because I was originally taught to hold it like this. Let me see if I can. And I couldn't get it to move. It was frustrating. And I set it aside for actually 10 years before my first another instructor came. His name was John Van Drie Sr. And we had found out that we actually lived in the same town, but we didn't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a town of 2,000 to 3,000 people and didn't know each other,
It's unusual.
it's very unusual. So what he told me was choke up on it, just like you would choke up on a bat. You can do it any way. I like to lay it over my hand and take my finger, but you can just do it that way. It doesn't really matter how you choke up on it. And the reason why you do it is it becomes a lot more reactive. You can say, I'm just going to ask, show me my yes. So I'm actually programming my pendulum, and this is telling your subconscious and your pendulum to react together. Show me my no. Okay, see if I can do it without the paper. So show me my yes, show me my no.
So it's going in two opposite directions.
So my yes is to and fro, and my no is side to side. For some people, their yes is a circle in clockwise direction, and then come to a stop. And then for some people, their no is counterclockwise. No way is wrong. It's just whatever works best for you. I was taught to and fro by multiple teachers because what it helps for me is that I can use that chart and go back to and fro or yes and no, and then I can get percentages of whatever I'm testing. So for instance, if I ask Raymond Grace says if people in your office are or your home, in which we've had a lot of people at home this year, have what he calls is non-beneficial frequencies, and those are just frequencies that just make you irritable. And so I can test on the chart what percent of those frequencies are making people irritable. So I'm going to show, so let me test. Is there non-beneficial frequencies in Eastdale Plaza? And I got a yes, because it's pointing to yes. And to what percent is it affecting the people in the building? And that was pretty quick. It went to 100%. So,
We are right next to the unemployment office, could I just say?
and the DOT. So two places where people have just a lot of things going on. So what I'm going to do is what Raymond taught me was to ask my higher self and whatever source that I have to release those non-beneficial frequencies. And all I do, I usually just close my eyes and take a deep breath and ask internally, and it's going to swing. If you can tell, it's swinging very, very fast. And I'm going to ask Tamara and Gina to pay attention to the energy to see if they can tell if the energy is dissipating.
It's working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things about pendulums, as I understand it, is that we are, it's a way of getting in touch with what I call my high self, or your intuitive self, and your own understanding of what is. And so that is how, when people say, well, who who are you getting in touch with? It's actually yourself that you're getting in touch with when you're working on using the pendulum.
Okay. So you noticed it slowed down and it kind of went to and fro again, and now it's picking back up again. What one of my teachers, Barbara Curran, said is it's batching. It's batching the energy. So there was more energy that needed to go, whatever that energy was, just needed to go. And I just hold on to it until it stops. Sometimes it can take a while. I don't think we've cleaned the space in the whole Eastdale Plaza in a long time.
I don't know that we've ever cleaned it, to be honest. So, yeah. So there's a lot of activity here. You have a lot of different kinds of things that go on. And so that's one of the things is, I know people will oftentimes use pendulums to clear their workplace or to clear their house and places like that, to set a space, to get it ready to enjoy it.
It's also great if you have to sell your house.
Yes.
To clean out your space, to clean out your energy in the house, and then invite the energy of the new owners into the house. That's also one use for it.
So, and it's just one of those things to where it just takes practice. It's not that there is any particular right way of doing things or a wrong way of doing things. I think that that's one of the things that we want to be aware of, is that we're giving you several varieties of what people do with the pendulum. And this is So dowsing has been around, working with the pendulum has been around for centuries, generations. In the world of healing practices, people who practice healing touch will often use, so now it's going the opposite direction.
Yep, I asked to bring in sources energy to lighten the energy in the building.
Mhm.
So my healing is clockwise and my releasing is counterclockwise.
Okay.
So I always know what it's doing.
So you can check on different things like people who learn healing touch, which is a modality, an energy modality similar to Reiki. I am so sorry. Um, so, um, okay. So that they can test your chakras to see if they're in balance or not. And so, and that would be working with a yes or a no.
Well, and also how open they are, and if they're closed, and to what degree are they closed, to what degree are they open, and that gives them guidance on how to do the session.
Mhm.
So it's just going to continue to go. How do you use it in your healing practice, Taylor?
Well, I was just going to share a story that one of the very first Reiki session that I had received, I was gifted it from a dear friend, and I never before
Come this
experienced
way a little bit.
Reiki, and the woman Karen Fox at Illuminations, um, she was going through, and Karen Fox is not Karen Scott, apologies. She was going through and testing my energy centers and doing. I could feel the energy working and stuff, and I had my eyes closed. But it was really interesting because when she got to the heart chakra, I just felt this, like, I was very uncomfortable, and just it just made a real impact. And from a place of my eyes being closed, I just reached up and kind of like knocked it out of her hands, not realizing what she was doing, that she was standing above me doing this work. And I was like, not going to happen. And so I just wanted to attest to
Interesting.
the fact that you can, even if you're not aware of, with the eyes closed, I could feel that it moving through my body. And, I was just kind of like a cat batting at something. But it just, yeah, kind of showed the ability of it not only to guide and direct the healing session, or to give you information on what the person might be going through, how open or closed their energy signatures are, but it also has the ability to begin working and moving the energy as well.
Wow. I mean, did you feel the pendulum, or you just felt the energy swirling?
I felt, well, so again, from my eyes closed, I could feel something happening, like kind of just like moving through. And then when it got to my heart chakra, I just felt, it felt like something was like trying to open it up. And of course, this was my first Reiki session many years ago, and I was not about to like open up and be vulnerable in front of somebody I didn't know. But I just thought it was quite amazing. I apologize. I had no clue that she was even using, because my eyes were closed the whole time. I had no clue she was even using the pendulum at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I could just, as soon as it got to it, and it was like I could just feel it, like a beam coming down on my body, and I was just like, and then it kind of like knocked it out, and I'm like, okay, so whatever you're just doing worked.
So Sandy is wondering if do you make it go in the direction you want?
Oh, the only time I do that is when I am, programming a pendulum. So every pendulum I get, I tell it what is my yes and what is my no. When I first learned dowsing, I was told that it was going to tell me, and that didn't really work out for me. So that's one of my frustrations. So when I first get a brand new pendulum, I just say, this is my yes. I physically get it swinging to and fro. This is my yes. Let me see if I can make it easier. This is my yes, to and fro. And then I just keep saying that until I feel that it's going to be responsive to me. And then I say, this is my no. This is my no. And I will just keep letting it swing side to side until I feel that the pendulum is going to be responsive to me.
So how about you, Tamara? How do you program a pendulum? Or
Um,
do you?
It's very similar. I like when the yeses are in lines and the circles or the nos are in circles.
Okay.
That's just how I prefer to do it. I don't know why. I just have always felt comfortable doing that. So, but yeah, and I tend to ask if it to show me, but
Mhm.
I do if it's going to do circles or I'll ask to correct. I'll course correct if I'm permitted to. And I would also point out that I have different pendulums for different things.
Okay.
So I do have a pendulum that I use for connecting with one of my guides.
Okay.
It's specifically for that guide to help me to understand because it's a little bit easier for us to communicate that way. And then I have another one for healing work and energy work, and then another one for my personal
Okay.
questions and stuff.
Fascinating. Fascinating. One of the, so when I'm doing the healing work or when Cameron's doing the healing work or whenever anyone's doing the healing work, we're not physically making it happen. We ask the question and let the pendulum show us.
Yes.
So the only time that we are making it happen, making it move on our own is when we're programming the pendulum.
Yeah.
I had something I was going to say and now I can't remember. That's okay.
Yeah, I think the pendulums are quite remarkable actually in terms of how they work with us. And one of the things that you can do is you can ask it to stop or tell it to stop. And because it'll be going and it's sort of like, okay, now let's just say stop, right?
Come to a full stop.
Come to a full stop.
It's not going to stop immediately, but it will stop.
A lot of times when I say thank you or acknowledge that I got the answer that I needed, then it will stop on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking of, I would mention that pendulums are pretty easy to manipulate because of that ability to move it in a particular direction. So if you are highly vested in an answer,
Don't ask.
you don't even bother asking because you literally can will it to be what you want it to be. So if you're going to use it, keep in mind that you do want to ask for your highest and best connection to that higher self
Yes.
source, or like I said, like I used one of mine connected with a guide. So yeah, and then for the really important questions where I admit like I really want it to be this answer, I will go and I'll ask Jennifer or Gina or Cindy to test for me. It just helps a lot for me.
Yeah, and where does the energy come from? It's sort of like the divine.
As long as you feel connected to whatever source energy is for you, to me, that's where it's coming from. So I've had several people ask, is it witchcraft? Is it anything like that? I'm like, no, because I say a short prayer, and I asked to connect to my highest and best, and my high self, and the divine source energy, and I call the source energy the creator. So I always ask to connect to the creator's energy before I do any dowsing. So that way I know it's coming from the highest place that's possible for me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I do feel like it might be reacting to the subtle energies that are moving through the arm, through the hand, and that's what's getting that response. Even if you're not making it, like you're not intending, you kind of already, like the energy is there and will help guide it. I feel like many times that it's coming from the subtle energy of our actual arm moving through.
Right. And like this pendulum was moving pretty quick when we cleared Eastdale Plaza. So I mean it was I had to hold on tight.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like it's gonna fly out of your hand.
I've had that happen where the building that I was clearing at the time, I cleared a building in Kansas City,
Jeez.
and what I found out later was that it was on in the 60s and 70s was on the demarcation line between the white and black neighborhoods, and there was all sorts of riots and things like there.
Hi,
In
Tina.
that instance, it flew out of my hand multiple times because the energy was just so intense, and I just picked it up off the floor and continued to do it.
Mhm.
So I think that goes, Angie's question, hello Tina. Angie's question, do certain crystals, stones, or fossils amplify the energy response? And that was
Good
what I was
question.
going to mention. They do have a difference in the way that they work. And whenever I've been working in like the etheric field, so some of that very, very high vibrational energy out in our subtle energy bodies, I tend to work with higher vibrational crystals such as Herkimer diamonds,
Mm.
because it makes light work. Haha. And it's a good vibrational match for that energy. Although I could use other ones, I've actually had them break or not be able to handle the energy that was moving through at the time, and having a crystal shatter or a pendulum shatter while you're doing work is kind of one of those aha moments. So I do believe it has some impact and influence on how you may use it. So we do have different crystals and stones. We also have metal ones as well. So when you are working with crystals and stones, they can pick up and absorb energies of the environment or the work that you're doing. And in that case, you definitely want to make sure you take time to clear your pendulum after the use, after you use it as well. The metal ones tend to be a lot easier and don't necessarily pick up stuff as easy as the crystal or stone ones do. And then of course the energy of the actual gemstone or crystal that you're using could be like a really good match for, like I said, like a guide or particular reason. Or but I also teach a crafting with crystals class, and you can make a pendulum out of a piece of paper, string, and a heavy object, and you're
Yes.
still going to get answers. So I mean, pendulums can be made, crafted out of simple things everybody has around the house.
With a piece of string, yeah.
Yep.
And so, and if you wear pendants, you can also just take it off and
Yep.
use a pendant.
So if you were to just grab, like, use one of your pendants, when you go to take it off, you just hold it up and it'll do the exact same thing.
When I predicted doused for my nephew's baby, I used a washer and a string.
Yep.
Because that's
Very
what
common.
I had on hand, as long as it has some weight to the bottom. And you would clear your pendulum just like you would clear your crystals. I use Reiki, and I'll use sage or Nag Champa, which we have here. However you clear your crystals. And do you have any advice on that other than that?
That's pretty much it.
Yep. So do we have any questions out there?
So, I guess one of the things so the chart that Jennifer showed you, this dowsing chart, there are a lot of people, Cindy particularly, learn to use it, so you're looking at percents oftentimes of the energies that you're working with, and you're trying to ascertain what it is. And so we are, and it's one of the things, so like a lot of times you'll ask certain percents. One of the things that I find fascinating, and I don't know, do you, Tamara, select food off a menu based on your pendulum?
Yeah, I've done it numerous times. Going to the grocery store, pretty easy way to do it as well. You can clear you can save time on an entire section by just, so if you were to hold the pendulum, just double check here. Okay. So if this was a store, well, this is a store, and I'm drawn to this, and this, let's do this. So I'm drawn to a stone over here, but say I don't have a lot of time, or I'm not exactly sure and I don't want to read all the cards. I can ask for the pendulum to show me, okay, now seriously, I know all of these want to go home with me, so let's just make an example. Cause it's funny. So I'm gonna just kind of point out here, this is the item, I know all the rest, okay. So if I was going to,
Which one wants to go home with me?
yeah,
You might want to change the question.
Yeah.
One of the,
we'll talk
yes.
about that in just a moment.
Yeah.
So I'm drawn over here and I need to work with one of these crystals and I'm asking for that crystal to come up front so I can find it faster. And so maybe I'll do this whole wall and I'll ask, is the crystal in this section right here? Whoa, okay, so no. Is the crystal in this section? I gotta know. Is the crystal in this section? It's already going yes before I even get there. And then I will just sit here and I'll say, is it on this shelf? Oh, hey now. Oh, there's celestials up there. Okay. So I gotta know this shelf. No, this shelf. Yep, this shelf. No. And then I can just kind of go through and then instead of going through each crystal or each item, I can now focus on that one shelf that drew my attention or got the pendulum to. I know, I love you so much. You're so cute. And I really do actually want that, but
it's a Chinese writing crystal,
Oh, those are just so cool.
and yeah, gorgeous.
so that's one way. I learned that one from a wonderful lady at the Green Angel Herbs in Colorado
Mhm.
who was making a concoction for me and just held my energy and then asked for, and she
To
went,
pick it out.
yeah, for the pendulum to pick it out. And it was the most amazing oil. I still use it. It's absolutely amazing.
That's one of the things like when Cindy Fox uh, uses her pendulum and it's sort of a part of her arm.
Yeah.
It does become an appendage.
It does. But she has friends who are out of state who have asked her to select crystals for them. And you do that
I do that
sometime as
often.
well in
Mhm.
terms of picking out the right crystal. And so,
Now you're giving away all my secrets. They always ask me how I pick out the best crystals.
well, you check in with their energy, but there are different ways of checking in with their energy. And using the pendulum is one way of checking with it. Oh, and one of the things that I've discovered is that if I start getting really bitchy, then I need to check in with my energy to see about clearing negative energy because generally I'm pretty easygoing, but there are times when I just can be awful. Can I just, I mean, seriously. And so I need to clear my own energy so that I'm myself again, rather than having those non-beneficial frequencies.
Yep.
And so it's not necessarily some sort of attachment or anything like that.
No.
It's just that you pick up stuff, and right now, all of us can, because there's been so much chaos in the world and so much fear, then those are some of the non-beneficial frequencies that we may find ourselves wanting to clear a little bit more.
So just pointing out, Angie, yes, you can use your quartz heart pendant. If you you can ask it and it will tell you whether or not it will. So and whenever you are working with the pendulum, you do want to keep it close to you for at least a good 5 to 7 days, just so it does get comfortable and familiar with your energy and frequency. So to bring it back just a few thoughts ago, we were talking about how to ask the questions. So the way it will teach you, the way in which you ask the question will affect the answer. So using your wording, which crystal do I need? Which crystal do I want? Or is this food beneficial for me? Is this food beneficial for me now? Will this help me most? Like, so you may want to, like, if you're getting answers and something seems a little bit off, try rewording the question to be more specific and time sensitive. So that is just like a helpful hint right there. It'll help you to get more accurate answers pretty quickly. What are some ways that you've learned to adjust your wording to get the most accurate results?
a lot of times I will tell my pendulum to set my ego aside,
Mhm.
to set my wants and desires aside.
Oh, that's a
And
sensible
it
thing to
and
do.
in what I do is I just imagine all of that just actually physically being set aside. Well,
Mhm.
it's like all of a sudden, okay, it's here.
Mhm.
And because if I'm getting wonky answers, I'm like, oh, I need to, I'm probably invested. And if I set my ego aside, my wants and desires aside, then what is in the best interest, highest and best interest for me. Other than that, I, it's, if I'm, just like you said before, if I'm emotionally invested, I always
Mhm.
ask someone else, and I always ask, is this in the highest and best interest of
Mhm.
whoever I'm dowsing for?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, so when I think of taking supplements or vitamins or things in the morning, I do have a cabinet full of things that are all going to be super beneficial for me, but I don't need to take every single one every single day. And
Mhm.
so that would be one way in which I make sure that I use the words that will help me to figure out which one to take that morning.
Yeah. And that's one of the stories that I wanted to tell is our dear friend Doreen McNeil, who had cancer for years. And when got to be pretty serious and they weren't sure how long she would live. In fact, I mean, this was several years ago.
She was like 7 or 8 years beyond what
Yeah.
the doctor said she would.
Yeah. And so every morning she would go through her supplements and decide whether, using her pendulum, and decide whether or not uh, that was the supplement her body needed for that day. So it was very specific. What does my body need today? And it now I'm not so uh, planning ahead. I am lazy and just put them all in there in terms of when I remember to take them. But but it is a very, very useful thing to do in terms of, and you know, when we have these questions that just make us crazy, like, well, I don't know, I just can't make up my mind, then that's where your pendulum can be very useful.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
would also say for the questions, like some of the yes and no questions, or when you're really what you're trying to do is soften into your intuition. You're trying to soften into being able to know already what's right for you, and the pendulum is a really good tool to help you to feel what that feels like. So what a yes would feel like, what a no would feel like. And so a lot of times I might go ahead and get that knowing and the pendulum confirms it. But it is a tool to help build and grow your intuition. And the more you do that, the more I feel like it helps to clear away the ego, to clear away all of the other stuff, so you can listen to that soft, quiet voice that is, or feeling that is your intuition, that's wanting to have more confidence in your outworking.
Yeah, yeah. So,
One of the things that Raymond does a lot is clear water.
and we had a water clearing dowsing group
Mm-hmm.
for when we were back in our old space. Doreen McNeil actually brought it together. Cindy Bonenkamp, I think it might have been Cindy's idea, and we had several of us, but you had Jan High
Mm-hmm.
and Cindy and Doreen and several others, and they would come together once a week to work on certain waterways around the world. So you don't have to be just contain yourself within where you are geographically. You can work with the energy in other places around the world.
Yes, and you can use maps, like actually use maps.
Yes.
And pendulums work really well together for finding and clearing
Mhm.
space. But do keep in mind that really only pursuing that if you feel a calling to,
Mm-hmm.
because clearing and healing is kind of a pretty big deal. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and water clearing.
In one of the weeks that we got together, one of the participants' farm had a well that was full of arsenic.
Mm-hmm.
And how we tackled that was we cleared the non-beneficial frequencies, and then we asked to deactivate the harmful effects of the arsenic,
Mm-hmm.
because there was no other way that they would be able to get a well, to get water on into their house and to be able to use it. And literally within a week, the arsenic levels came down to whatever that's fine for humans.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you do want to also, when you start doing that kind of work, you want to ask the question of, do I have permission?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we have permission? Because there are times when we do not have permission to work on certain things. It is the highest and best. That's one thing you can do with the highest and best. But asking permission, if you're finding trouble connecting, using that particular question is going to be very important.
Mm-hmm. And in this case, we had the owner's permission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't clear land, I don't clear a building unless I have the owner's permission.
Mm-hmm.
Do we ever really own anything? Sorry.
Well.
Won't get into
That's all right. I mean, you know, it's figurative in Western society, particularly.
where we like to own everything,
Yeah, to some extent.
to some extent.
Yeah, but it is a really it is when things start happening, they get, you know, a lot of times we don't even realize that we're carrying around these energies with us. And so all sorts of stuff starts happening. And it's like, what in the world is going on? And why is it going on? So,
So, maybe just a fun practice, little homework for everybody. You can do, if you have a pendulum already, if you don't, obviously you see, we have a wonderful selection here
we're more than
from
happy to help you pick one out.
$12 to $20, available here at the shop. Encourage you to do a little practice and check in with each of your energy centers, and do a gauge for how open and closed they are. So just gonna, I don't necessarily want to, well, maybe I won't be doing that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I'll go get the phone.
So I'll answer the question. Yes, you can use them. Yes, you can use selenite to clear. We have one of the cool things is I'm gonna go get it so you guys can see it. So give me 1 second. You talk, Gina.
So it's sort of interesting because we develop our own way. You want to just bring the phone in here? We develop our own way of working with pendulums, and I have actually had people who understand about, as I'm continuing my recovery from my surgery, I've had people talk about reminding me to clear the energies, because if you've got stuff that's not going the way you want it to, then one of the things you can do is start working on bringing in clearing or healing energies that are a little bit better. Excuse me.
So we have several different things that you can use. We have this beautiful bowl. This is $22. And
I love that one.
I know it's my favorite. You can just place the pendulum in there for however long it feels that you need to clear. You can even ask your pendulum, how long do you need, how much time do you need in the bowl to clear. Here's another bowl. Let's put the blue in there so they can see.
And
well, I
we
mean,
have,
I guess it did just do all that work in the building, so
Yeah.
could probably stay in there.
yeah,
And then we have a triangle,
that doesn't
a
look anything like a
a
triangle.
circle. Well, we have a triangle. I just grabbed the circle.
Okay.
And was that it? Just the
And-
circle and triangle?
No, we
We
have,
have a hexagon.
Hexagon that you can just place on there.
Yeah. And I think one of the questions people are going, well, does the shape make any difference? And from my perspective, no. But this one has, hey Bill, you have the Merkaba, which is what our light bodies are. And so I've got one that's a metal, I mean, a crystal one. But I think it's really what feels right when you're working with it. I think people are more traditional pendulums. People are thinking they're like this, just sort of looking like a crystal point of one sort. But you have a whole variety. For instance, you have these that have a crystal inside with a crystal on the bottom. And so it's just, again, what is working with your energy that makes you feel like it's going to do the work you
Mhm.
ask of it to do.
What I like ones with a point, with a well-defined point, because it makes it a lot easier to use the chart. So you can see what percent, makes it a lot easier to see the percentage with a well-defined point.
So,
And this chart, just by the way, is a dowsing chart by Walt Woods. And you can type in Walt Woods or Raymond Grace, and you should be able to find it on the internet.
Yeah. And there's a whole lot of different kinds of charts actually, that are out there for, yes, no, or direction, or, mantra charts. You can actually have a variety of different kind of pendulum charts or make your own.
yeah, that was another thing that Doreen McNeil told me. She had been down in the Southwest and she got lost. And so she pulled out her map, or I don't even know if she had a map, and she kept asking her pendulum which way to go. Do I go this way or that way? She found her way back. And this was probably even before cell phones. And so, but yeah. So, hi, Danielle. So,
So you can use your pendulum as instead of GPS.
yeah, it's a little more cumbersome, but you can use
Yeah,
it.
you kind of have to pull off the road
Mhm.
and douse.
Okay.
So there's so many things, and as Tamara said, it just takes practice. It took me a while to get that kind of response, because I've had several people that I've taught dowsing. They're like, I can't get it to respond as fast as you do, and I'm like, well, I've been doing it for a very long time.
You have been doing it for a very long time.
Just takes a lot of practice. Anything else?
So something's going through over there. What's going on?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just think that this is probably, I mean, we talk about tools. And so if you think about our November bingo card, tools are on there, a pendulum, and pendulums are also on the bingo card. But pendulums are one of the very oldest tools for figuring out answers. And it's just really, really fun. And it is not crazy. One of the most fun things of taking Raymond Grace's classes, it's not just working with the pendulums, but it's also working with the dowsing rods
And bobbers.
And how they work. And so they're just a lot of different ways of dealing with the highland, with the energy in terms of clearing and helping yourself and helping others.
So Angie says, how often can people use a pendulum? As often as you want.
Yeah. Cindy uses hers all the time.
Daily, numerous times throughout the day. But again, I'll just point out that it is a practice of building your confidence. So if you were to use it often, you may notice that over time, over the months or years that you use it, you go to it less because you are able to discern the answer beforehand.
Right.
But even then, you'd still, Cindy, I mean, she's really excellent and really intuitive, yet she does rely on the pendulum to confirm and affirm what she's feeling.
Yeah. It's always that
Hello,
question.
Lynn.
Yeah. So how often can people use it? Yeah. So basically,
Whenever you feel need to.
yeah, whenever you want to. Yeah. Yeah. So they're just a lot of fun. And then one of the questions is, we've talked about whether or not you can have more than one pendulum. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many I have. I think ideally we want to keep the nuts out of them. I'm not very good at keeping nuts out of them. You'll notice I have a bad habit of just sort of stuffing them in a pocket and they'll tangle themselves up. And so we've got some people who are really good at getting nuts out. Miss Tamara's good. I remember when Kristen was around, she was very good at getting my nuts out. And so, hi, Paige. So, yeah, so they're just a lot of fun. And
I think that's
one of the other things is that when we've also, you can, in terms of world issues, it's just like with when you're sending love and healing, Reiki energy to hurricane areas, to any place that's been traumatized. So after the earthquake in Turkey, places like that, you can also use a pendulum to work with those energies to help clear what's going on and to bring in the light, to bring in healing energies with it. Let's see, Bill says, so Bill's my brother. He says, my dad had a crystal pendulum he would sometimes hold in his hand while he did people's horoscope, which makes really good sense because you're asking questions about the houses and how something is working and relating to it. So, yeah, it's a great tool.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
It is like a 30-second delay, so give them just a moment to answer. If you have anything else that you would like to know, or if you have any experience you want to share, feel free to let us know. So
Yeah. So I mean, I've been working with my pendulum recently on my healing, and the different metals do different things. I just think that the variety is wonderful, but you will decide for yourself, or your high self will determine which pendulum is going to be best for you. And that's one of the things I think with all of the crystals that we have learned over the years is that it's not our role to tell you what's going to be best for you. It has to come from your inner guidance. And a pendulum is really good with inner guidance. And now we're getting everything neatened up. That's good.
yep, just in time to end the show.
Yeah. So
Oh
anyway,
wait, we have one question. How
Huh?
can we find additional learning
With
with
making.
making homemade pendulums?
Google.
Google.
I mean,
Because
Yeah.
you can make a pendulum out of anything.
Yeah. I
a
mean,
paper clip
Mhm.
on a piece of string.
right. I would be open to maybe doing a crafting with crystals class. Meaning how do we make them at home? Yeah, so again, the answer is Google. Google will be really great to help you with that. I would consider doing a crafting with crystals class and doing take home kits and doing a virtual thing depending on what materials people have at home. And with that comes a mini tutorial with programming it and getting you started on a couple of different uses for it. So
Yeah. So, and people will come to that. So that would be great.
I know, yes, it's been a very popular workshop. We've done it twice now, because we had a lot of people asking for it again. So, yeah,
So I
okay,
think-
fine, I'll
Okay.
get something
Yay.
worked
Well,
out.
well, the thing is that it's sort of like we can give. Tamara has so many things that she's supposed to be doing right now, and so we do have to understand what is possible and not possible in terms of time-wise. But I believe that that is one of the things that we can work up. It might very well be one of the things you want to do for our holiday open house in the month of December.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or we'll move it into the new year in January. It's another way, really good way of starting the new year out too. So, But anyway, folks, we love all of you. We're so grateful. And this is a time for all of us to just love one another. It's just pretty simple. It's important for us as loving human beings and just beings of this incredible universe that we live in. It becomes so important that we always be kind to each other and that we understand that each of us is like the other. We cannot, rather than allowing anyone to make us believe that some of us are bad people and some of us are good people, ultimately, we're all good beings and we are all beings of light. We sometimes choose the role to play the bad person in this lifetime in someone else's life. But now it becomes really important that we just care about ourselves and that we care about each other. And we're so grateful that you join us in these talks. Oh my God, we have so much fun. It's just ridiculous.
Thank you.
But we're not, it's not ridiculous. It's just joyful. So we really appreciate you being here today and come in and get yourself a pendulum if you don't have one, or make yourself one. And you can tell us about it. We love you, and we'll be here next Thursday. I'm not quite sure what fun thing we're going to be talking about yet, but we will definitely be back and we'll just have a good time. So, what do you think?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lynn.